But they ought to be. All right, John King's over there. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning, Peter.
What's happening?
It's hump day.
It's beautiful,
really
day
beautiful weather lately, except for the horrible Halloween fog we get every morning.
But not today.
No.
Things are looking pretty good. It's a beautiful day, and everybody should be safely tucked away at work or school or whatever it is they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want people wandering around there willy-nilly with nothing important to do.
Right. No, we don't want people accidentally golfing.
Or doing, some sort of leisure activity in
Watching
the middle of the morning.
Basketball when there's important ceremonies to attend in France or something. Get to the grindstone, people.
He was actually watching football, but don't tell anybody.
Football.
Football's a different story.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, now I understand. We shared a story last week about, maybe it was this week. Was it Monday?
It was, no, it was last Friday.
Last Friday, about the scam call that I got from the guy that claimed to be from the IRS, threatening with a legal lawsuit.
That's right.
And we had a little fun with that because at the end he basically told me what to do with myself, which we had to edit. But what is really coincidental, you received a similar scam call, wasn't it the very next day?
It was just hours after that show.
Wow.
And so anyway, and by the way, I got another call yesterday. I didn't even pick it up because I didn't have the time. There was an Amber Alert and other stuff I was working on, so I didn't have time to play with my phone. And anyway, and I already had this. I mean, the call and the scam, the time that I took up from the scammers, I see as my gift to the rest of America.
Well, you should bill them.
It was like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Worth of conversation, which I have condensed into an 8.25 minute segment here for you.
Shall we do this now?
Sure. So basically, this guy calls up, and I just wanted to make sure it was a scam before I hit record.
Right, yeah.
But after George Jefferson started introducing himself and a potential prize, I knew I was pretty safe. So I went ahead and hit record, and here's what followed.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, listen and enjoy.
Hello?
Yeah?
Well, this call is pertaining to a certified cashier check that you have randomly selected from our company, okay?
Okay.
This cashier's check is valued $2.5 million plus I see here on your file a bonus price of 2050 Mercedes-Benz. Congratulations, sir, and welcome on board of Financial Freedom. Okay, sir?
Oh, yeah. Welcome aboard. I'm on. I want to go on.
Okay, sir. I want you to get yourself a clean sheet of paper with a good writing pen so I can provide you with some very important information, sir.
All right. I got my pen here. I'm ready.
Okay, sir. First thing, you're going to take down my company name, the Cash Award Winner Circle.
So, Cash Award Winners.
Winner Circle. Okay, sir. And I'm going to give you your confirmation number. Congratulations one more time, sir. And welcome on board of Financial Freedom, sir. And may I ask you this question, sir? How would you like your interview, sir? Would you like it privately or would you like it openly?
Openly.
Okay, sir. Openly, sir, is mean that you're on every radio station, TV station in the U.S., sir.
Yes, every radio station and TV station in the U.S., please.
Okay, sir. Sir, our company already take care of 99% of these taxes, and you only have 1% to take care of, sir.
I only have to pay 1% of the taxes?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sweet deal. Okay.
Because 2.5, yes, sir. And 1% would be a claimsman card, which is green that money back special of card, sir.
It's
okay?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. A what card?
A green that money back special of card.
Okay.
It's a paper card, sir. Sir,
Yeah?
do you have this money in your possession right now, sir, that you can pick up your claimsman card?
Yeah, $358. That's not hard to come by.
Okay, sir. How long would it take you from now, sir, to get your card and back?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, sir. Well, sir, this is an online delivery. I'm going to stay on the phone, sir, till you get your card and back, sir. Okay? When you come back, sir, you take up your phone and say, okie dokie, Mr. George Jefferson, I'm back. Okay, sir?
So you just want me to leave my phone running the whole time?
Yes, sir.
Why can't you just call me back?
This company policy, sir.
Company policy?
Yes, sir. This call is monitored and recorded by the FBI.
The FBI?
Yes, sir.
Why in the heck is the Federal Bureau of Investigation recording the call?
Sir, this winning, sir, is a lot of money, sir, and Uncle Sam have to know about it, sir. We cannot do no form of business behind the government back, sir. Okay, sir?
I don't really understand, but okay.
Because, sir, it's a lot of fraud is going on all around in the U.S., sir.
Oh, how are they defrauding them?
So you just and ready to go out, sir, to the Walgreens?
Well, almost. I was. Can you put a member of the FBI on? I mean, how do I know that you're not defrauding me?
No, sir. Our call is monitored and recorded by the FBI, sir, for company policy, sir, company reasons, sir. I'm just a price director, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir?
I'll run and I'll get the money, okay? I'll be right back.
My manager would like to have a word with you, sir.
Oh,
Okay?
sure.
Yes. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, a special and a wonderful good day. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm doing great, thank you. You're speaking with Mr. Bill Johnson, and I'm the general manager here of the company, okay? Now, you have luckily won yourself a certified cashier's check here at our company that is valid at $2.5 million that you will be receiving today by the UPS delivery service, okay?
Awesome.
Wonderful. Now, my agent, I guess you could hardly understand in what you were explaining, but he kind of explained to you with all the necessary information which you need in order to claim your $2.5 million, correct?
Yeah, I think I understand. He gave me a bunch of numbers. He didn't tell me what to do with them, and then he told me to pick up some kind of card.
Well, those information that he provided to you, those information, they're very important. You should be putting them up very safely because you're going to have to be providing those information to the attorney that will be coming over with the delivery service.
Yeah.
There's going to be an attorney, that's the name of Miss Mary Smith. She's going to be the one which will be taking over all the documentation that you will be building out to be showing proof that you have received your $2.5 million.
Amazing.
And nothing goes wrong, okay?
Okay, so Mary Smith, where will she come? To my work or my house or what?
Okay, she will be the one that will be coming over with the delivery team over at your place of residence in Montana. The delivery team, they're located in Billings, Montana at that approximately time, okay?
At the approximately time, okay.
Yes, sir, they're located in Billings. Now, what is going to be happening, did my agent explain to you about a registration card that you're supposed to be picking up? That is your green dot money tax scratch card for the $385.
Right, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, as you were explaining to you that we're called, the reason why this is an online delivery that you're getting today, okay? Our call is being properly recorded with the Better Business Bureau, Federal Trade Commission, and it is monitored and secure with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
You are protected.
So the Better Business Bureau, the FCC, and the FBI are recording?
The FCC, that is the Federal Trade Commission, and it is monitored and secure with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, okay?
Okay.
Wonderful. So I could guarantee you this is a 150% guarantee and on the open up for you, all right? Now, first thing I would like for you to be doing, are you properly dressed where you could be heading to go on the road?
Yeah, I would say properly dressed as far as that goes for me.
Okay, very good. Now, the $385, do you have it at home in cash or you have to go to your bank?
I have it in cash.
Okay, wonderful. So what is going to be happening, I'm going to be on the line. You're going to be letting me know as soon as you're inside of your vehicle. You're going to be heading down to the Walgreens. All right, so I'm on the line. You just say hello as soon as you're
inside of your vehicle because you know that safety comes first. Instead of me driving and talking in the phone. So when you get inside of your car, you just say, hello, I'm in the car. Or you could just toot the horn 2 times so I know that you're in the car. And when you get inside, you rest the phone down on the passenger seat, okay?
This is awesome.
Okay, well, thanks for being concerned about my safety.
Okay, I'm saying that when you get in the car, you just toot the horn 2 times, okay? So I know that you're in the car, okay?
My horn doesn't work. Can I just hit the blinker or something?
Yeah, you could even just say, hello, Mr. Johnson. I'm inside of my car on my way to Walgreens.
All right, there you go. All right. The rest of the call is me pretending to go to Walgreens. So I go and I open the door and put the cell phone near it and crack it and make little whirring sounds in the background.
Okay, well, we're way past a break. So this is the kind of nonsense that goes on all the time. And pity some poor person who doesn't really realize that this is a scam. And they take their precious money and they go to Walgreens and they buy the card and they read the number off the card to the man, right?
I think you actually go online and send it through eBay.
Well, whatever. And then they get your money and you get nothing except feeling like an idiot. So,
luckily, the online component is there. That makes it so that people, of a generation that have difficulties with the internet might not be scammed so easy.
Well, anyway, we're going to take a break, come right back with more of Talk Back in just a moment. And have you heard, this guy's name was Anderson? No, Johnson.
Well, first I talked to Mr. George Jefferson.
Right. And then it was
Mary Smith is the attorney that's coming to my house.
Right.
And then Mr. Johnson is the manager.
And I was the one with Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. We'll be right back. Hey, it's Talk Back. 721-1290. But both John and I have had fun with scammers this past week. So, and if you want to tell your story, give us a call. We had quite a few calls the other day, and it was very entertaining. But it's a little bit scary when you think of just how prolific these things are.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's just a big cottage industry somewhere in Uzbekistan or whatever, where they just pick a number and call. And
I wonder if there's someone out there actually giving away $2.5 million. He's just like, why do people keep hanging up on me? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, well, I'm giving you $2.5 million just because you're a nice person. Okay. So
the winner's circle.
Yes.
Welcome aboard.
The winner's
financial freedom.
Oh, there you go. All right, let's get Lorraine on the line. Good morning, Lorraine.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Did you recognize Mr. George Jefferson?
Yes, I got the call, but it was a little more dramatic than that.
Oh, what happened?
Well, he said that I electronically do my taxes, and I did it wrong, and that the police officers and the IRS were coming to pick me up and put me in jail.
Wow.
In an hour if I didn't have $5,000.
$5,000?
$5,000. And then I started crying because I never been in jail before or even arrested or anything.
Now, were you playing along with him or were you serious about it?
No, I was serious.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't answer the phone, and then he said, this is the IRS criminal investigation, and you're under arrest, so I picked it up. And but they had all their ducks in a row. They gave me all these things that I did wrong on my taxes, and he says, "Ma'am, don't get upset that you have a court hearing in 5 days. You'll be in jail for 5 days, but I can intercept for you if you give me $5,000. I will intercept, and the police won't come and pick you up right now." And I started bawling.
How bold is that?
I felt like I was going to have a heart attack.
Oh, that's terrible.
And so he kept saying, "Ma'am, calm down." And he gave me all the numbers of the codes of what I did wrong on my taxes. I said, "I've never done my taxes. This other company does taxes."
Right.
And they said, "I see that you have a very good credit number."
Credit rating, yeah.
Which I do, credit rating. So he knew a lot about me, and then he got me to tell him where I did my taxes, and then he said, "Just have your passport, and I will try to intercept, but it's about 20 minutes before the police get there from Hamilton." And
Hamilton.
yeah, and he said go down to. He told me Safeway in Hamilton.
Now, do you live in the Bitterroot, ma'am?
Yeah, I live in Hamilton.
Oh, you do. Okay, all right.
Hamilton has the spare police force necessary to deal with all of Western Montana.
Right.
Clearly.
Yeah.
But anyway, he had everywhere the courthouse was. He had where Safeway was. He had all the directions, everything, what to do.
That's why we have Google Earth, you know.
Yeah, and see, I'm not very good on the computer, but
Yeah,
anyway, I said, well, my husband and I are pastors. I have to be in church Sunday. He goes, I'm sorry, ma'am, but if you can get that money right away, I can intercept for you, but you got about 10 more minutes.
He used the term intercept.
Yeah, the intercept the police that if you give me the money, I will intercept the police so they won't come pick you up.
Yeah, the term he should have used was intervene, but, you know.
Yeah.
Who's
and
counting?
He gave me his badge.
Someone was watching football recently.
He said, let me give you to my, the whatever, and he was trying to calm me down.
Right. Yeah.
And so anyway, I said, well, let me call my son to see if I can get some money. He says, I'll tell you what, if you can get me $1,500, I will. And then he just kept going down.
Whoa, he went down to 15. See, I was going to say he knew his mark because when they were pitching me, I just spent $256, which is not that
and he even
size.
gave me a number because I told my son I don't have two phones, which I did, but I said I'll call my son to see if I can get some money, and he gave me the number to call back. And I called the first time I called it back, and that's why when they said this is the IRS criminal investigation, that's why I went along with it.
Wow.
And it was, and then my son happened just to walk in, and I was I was crying because I'm going to jail, and I don't have $1,500, and he got scammed too, and so did my brother. But it was pretty traumatic. It was awful.
Now, Lorraine, when did this happen exactly?
It's been about probably 3 weeks.
Oh, so it was just very recently then.
Did you end up giving him any money?
No, but I was, because I didn't want to go to jail. I'd never been in a cop car before. I was like, I would have, if my son would have walked in, I would have given him money, trying to get money in.
Lorraine, in our visits with the Attorney General's office, the one thing we've heard over and over again is that no legitimate government agency ever does business cold calling over the phone.
Yeah, I learned a whole lot.
Yeah.
I actually called the police department and begged them not to pick me up.
Oh.
And they said, what?
Yeah.
And I go, you guys are going to pick me up in 10 minutes because I don't have $1,500. And then they began, he was mad. And I said, here's the number. I even called them back, and he answered the phone. And so anyway, he was going to call him back. So usually they just hang up on me.
Right.
But he informed me a whole lot. Now I know a whole lot more than I used to.
Well, Lorraine, we're sure glad you called, and thankfully you didn't get scammed. But you learned a valuable lesson, right?
Oh, yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for your call.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it. Wow. All right, 721-1290. I mean, we'll take a quick break. We're actually way overdue for breaks here, but we'll jump in and do the best we can. We'll be right back. Hey, it's a Wednesday edition of Talk Back, and it's a beautiful day in Western Montana, but we're talking about scams. John got a call. I got a call. Lorraine got a call. And looks like Lee got a call as well. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning, Peter. I didn't get a call, but I signed up on healthcare.gov. now, bear with me.
Okay.
I told them my income was $25,000 a year. They did the calculation. They said that my end of the premium was $10.74 a month.
Wow.
Which is a lot less than the penalty, so I signed up.
Great.
Now I get Form 8962 to calculate what you have to, if they gave you excess premium. When I calculate through the calculation, it says I owe them between $500 and $600. Now, if that isn't bait and switch, I don't know what is.
So basically, from their subsidy of what they gave you to lower your premium, they are going to tax you for that subsidy.
They're not taxing. You have to return. It's line 46. You have to return part of the subsidy. basically they're saying,
So what the hell did they give you the subsidy for? I'm sorry, I don't mean to curse, but good Lord, what is with these people?
Let's just think you could invest that money into something to make a profit, and then you
Right.
pay back later. It's like a loan from the bank you weren't expecting.
Good Lord, that is...
but Peter, you might consider, I know you have a tax guy on sometime.
Yes, Walt Kiro.
And ask him, if this is a common problem, because I'm pretty good with numbers, but it just doesn't square.
Yep.
I assume that their calculation should be right.
Yeah. He'll actually be on a week from today, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay, I'll write that down.
And I encourage you to call Lee, because I really want you to get some answers here, okay?
Okay. But it looks like a scam to me.
All
Pretty
right.
sure I know what the answer is going to be.
Thanks for the call.
Oh, yeah, you got to pay that.
Thanks, Lee. Have a good one, buddy. Take care. All right, let's get Bruce on the line. Good morning, Bruce. How are you?
Hey, good morning, guys. Doing good.
What's up?
I think we have a cure for this Obamacare thing. Ryan Zinke said that if he got elected, he was going to stop Obamacare.
Oh, yeah. One legislator is able to do it, I'm sure.
One brand new legislator.
So if
In the House,
I don't catch him
nonetheless.
when he's on, if you guys could ask him how that's working out.
We'll get on it.
I think actually he just got there. I think he probably just found the men's room, which is a common problem with new legislators. They have to find their way around first, and then he's already cast a couple of votes. So let him get his feet wet a little bit, and for a Navy SEAL, that's pretty good.
I guess it beats stumbling around the halls looking for a potted plant, huh?
All right, Bruce. We will definitely let him know.
All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks for the call. We're up against a break. Our friend Bob Seidenschwartz is in studio today, and I'm sure that Bob probably also got the same call offering him the
$2.5 million and a 2015 Mercedes-Benz, and then Bob would just respond, I already have those things.
Gentlemen, look outside. This is my last show. The money is in the bank.
That's right, baby. We're going to come right back
been a
after
pleasure.
this. Stay with us. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. All right, 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. John King, the fabulously wealthy Bob Seidenschwartz.
I got a 2004 Nissan Frontier pickup truck out there, right?
You got the 2015 Mercedes. Why did you sell it, or?
It's in the garage.
Okay.
I'm a simple guy.
Right.
You're going to get the audience thinking I'm something I'm not.
Simple,
Really?
humble man. Right, let's get Verna on the line. Good morning, Verna.
Good morning.
What's on your mind, ma'am?
Well, I just wanted to add to the long list of these phony calls. from
Great,
the
go ahead.
IRS.
What was your experience?
My experience was they left a message on my answering machine, and the guy said his name was Melwin Batik, or Batik, I think he said.
All right.
And instead of saying Melvin, as most Americans would,
Right,
I
it's
caught
Melwin,
that
yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
On the message, he said, my name is Melwin. Okay, and then he said he was with the tax audit department, and he had a legal petition, he said you have several legal petitions for tax fraud
Right.
and tax evasion.
Now, did he say there was a legal lawsuit made out in your name?
No, he said there were legal petitions.
Okay, yeah. Well, legal is obviously a key word. It's a buzzword there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he gave me this phone number, 888-369-8791. Of course, I never called back, obviously.
You probably were supposed to call back in the approximately time,
Yeah.
as I was supposed
Well,
to.
he did threaten me with arrest even on the, just on an answering machine message. He didn't give me a time when he was going to arrest me.
Well,
but he
perhaps they
said-
were just going to arrest your answering machine.
He said if I didn't call, we could work something out, but otherwise I would be arrested. So I just kind of ignored the whole thing until you guys started talking about it. But, there really ought to be a law because...
Well, there are laws.
Yeah, it's illegal.
It's fraud. But unfortunately, these calls are coming from out of the country. And so it's difficult to, you can't just drive over to wherever, Uzbekistan, and arrest somebody.
My call that you heard at the beginning was from Jamaica, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Well, anyway, I knew it was a scam because people say in America. They say Melvin
Yeah.
instead of Melwin.
The important thing, Verna, and this is really important to everybody who's listening out there, if you get a call like that, either just delete the message off your phone, and if they call again, just hang up without even speaking to them.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Or you could play them along for 25 minutes for a good laugh.
I'm not that brave because I really don't, I worry about tax problems too, doesn't everybody?
Well,
but,
I know.
But
See,
as far as I know, I've never done anything illegal.
And that's the problem with these vultures is that they prey on the common fears that we all have. I mean, every living human being in America is afraid of the IRS. Everybody. And so, what's the organization they use? They don't use the Red Cross. They use the IRS.
Right.
You know?
Well, I just thought I'd add my woes to everybody else's.
Well, I'm glad they didn't
take it up, and I hope that our state attorney is listening to all of this too. So
well, yeah, we have contact.
You might want to send them a recording.
I have.
Thank you.
I have. Thanks, and thanks for the call, Verna. Yeah, I gave them all the numbers I have. I'm sure John did the same thing. But what can they do with them if they're they're out of the country?
Yeah. We don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah, we don't. So anyway,
I'm trying to lure George Jefferson to Montana. Hey, when I get the money, I want to invest it back into you because you've done so much for me. You've put me on the boat of financial freedom, and I want you to welcome you aboard as well.
All right. Now, you also wanted to talk about John Kasich, right? He was in Montana.
Yeah. So
last week,
former Governor John Kasich, who is looking like he's running for president, has been touring the Midwest, trying to get a balanced budget amendment for the U.S. Constitution into the minds and hearts of the people and legislators that might be able to get something done. Since I don't think John has much power at this point.
No.
But anyway, he was here in Montana, kind of making his pitch, and in a closed room session with Republicans, he was asked a pretty tough question. Basically, one of the legislators in the room from Montana, from Billings, I believe, says, "Hey, you know what? You're going around saying you want to balance the budget, and then you accepted Medicaid in your state, which helped to unbalance the budget.
Right?
Isn't that a bit of a hypocritic move? I would be supporting you if you had stood up for your values on Medicaid expansion." Now, frankly, this particular legislator obviously has a little bit of gusto, but also we haven't expanded Medicaid in Montana.
No, we haven't.
And John Kasich comes back and says, basically, it's your moral duty. I mean, he quotes scripture at it.
Yeah, I know.
And so I'll play this clip for you and tell us what you think.
Tell you what, we're going to take this is a 5-minute clip, so I'm going to go ahead and take our break right now, and then we'll have plenty of time to listen to this, and I want you to comment because this is what really burns me up about these people. We're going to be right back in just a moment. There you go. All right. Welcome back to Talk Back. And John King's over there. Bob Seidenschwartz joined us. We're a little distracted because there's a lovely lady next door passing out some delicious ribs.
Yeah, so apparently the Sunrise Coffee Shop brought in ribs this morning. Like coffee Jamaican rub on them, or something.
They're really
like
good.
It's a coffee.
I'm really fond of
it's a
Jamaica
coffee
today
rub.
because they offered me $2.5 million,
Exactly.
a Mercedes-Benz, and ribs. So,
But the ribs were real.
yes, the ribs were real.
Yeah.
Are you saying the other stuff's not?
Yes. So should we play? Now, this is a former Governor John Kasich visiting with one of our legislators, Scott Sales. And let's check in.
And before you say it, this
Yes.
was caught on video by a reporter who I believe I've got in the.
Just says Kasich versus Scott Sales. Yeah.
Now, Peter Kasich is from Ohio, correct?
Right.
He has done, I think, a pretty significant job of getting Ohio's budget.
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah,
balance,
he did a famous job.
creating jobs, cutting, programs where he needed to. So, for full disclosure,
He did some things very well,
He
yeah.
did.
So
Yeah.
John Adams from the Great Falls Tribune was the one that was in there recording this video. So just giving him a shout out real quick.
So here we go.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you recently approved the Medicaid expansion.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have this extra money at the state level, why wouldn't you use state dollars instead of federal dollars? By your own admission, you're reinforcing this idea that you want someone else to do the heavy lifting. I mean, you could have said no to the federal dollars associated with Medicaid, and as governor and as a legislature, we can say no to almost all the federal dollars.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, under Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, currently, You know as well as I do that the federal government is way out of bounds in a lot of areas that it has no authority. So why not as governor? Why wouldn't you be one of the first guys, and I'd be singing your praises, probably trying to encourage you to run for president, if you said no to Medicaid expansion, cut your rate and string, especially when you have a surplus to the federal government, instead of just enabling this thing to go on and on.
Well, let me.
So I mean, I find it to be somewhat hypocritical, to be perfectly honest.
Well, let me answer it. First of all, John Roberts gave me an opportunity in the Supreme Court for the state to make a decision as to whether they want to reclaim its money or not. There's no money in Washington, it's my money. Okay, and so I brought my money back to Ohio, and what do we do with it? We treat the mentally ill, we treat the drug addicted, and we help the working poor to stop going to emergency rooms, forcing me to pay for their medical bills because they go there sicker. Now, I don't know whether you ever read Matthew 25, but I'd commend it to you, the end of it, about do you feed the homeless and do you clothe the poor. I'm a believer that it is in the conservative tradition to make sure that we help people get on their feet so they then are not dependent. And that's why we're engaged in welfare reform again, and I was engaged in welfare reform when I was in Washington. Now, do I think that it's appropriate for the federal government to, in some ways, be a partner and help to provide some resources to solve problems in partnership with the states? I do. Okay, do I think that it is inconsistent to be in favor of Medicaid expansion, which, by the way, Ronald Reagan expanded Medicaid. I don't know whether you know that or not. But he expanded Medicaid, and he's the patron saint of all conservatives, I know. But the fact is that we can, in fact, balance a budget. Let me tell you about my Medicaid program. How fast is your Medicaid program growing in Montana?
I'm sure.
Well, no, how fast is it? You asked me, I'm asking you a question.
I don't serve on the appropriations.
Okay, so you don't know. So you don't know how fast it's growing.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let me tell you how fast mine's growing. When I came into office, my Medicaid program, state share was growing at 9%. My first budget, it grew at 3%. And guess what? We didn't cut anybody off, and we didn't reduce any benefits. Now, what we've been able to do is keep the promises that we made to the mentally ill. Now, I got to tell you, turning down your money back to Montana on an ideological basis when people can lose their lives because they get no help doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Government is here to be as a last resort, not as a first resort. So I read in the Wall Street Journal on Saturday about the doctor in Montana who's treating all these people who are sneaking in there who aren't getting very good health care, and about a guy who froze to death. And I read that and I thought, you know, we gotta help those people. Now that does not mean that we can't be in a position to get them trained and to get them help. That's what we're doing in Ohio now. So I am directing every one of my welfare departments in the state. Here's what they're going to do. You get food stamps, you get help, you get Medicaid. You're going to come in and we're going to find out what your problem is. And we want to train you. And we want businesses in the welfare department so that we train you for a job that exists so you get out of the ditch. So that's kind of my view. And in terms of are we aggravating a problem, look, I could probably take fewer Medicaid dollars if they'll just take the strings off. And that's exactly what we did in '97. So, you know, I've been in all these places. And if I thought that expanding Medicaid would keep us from being able to have a balanced budget, or to have fiscal responsibility or to create dependence, I wouldn't be for it. In my state, it's working. People are healthier, they're getting their lives back, they're getting work, and so that's the reason I'm doing it. But I appreciate your position because I know it's a legitimate position, but it's based on strict ideology. It's not based on the practicality of what the heck is happening in the streets out here.
There you go.
So there
I
you
think
go.
I introduced him as former governor, but he's
still
actually
governor.
currently governor
Correct.
of Ohio. So, well, that was John Kasich. What did you think? We want to hear what you thought. 721-1290. Who won that back and forth? Scott Sales or John Kasich?
Well, here's the difference. When the scriptures encourage you to do a thing, they want you to do it out of your heart because it's something that you're moved by your compassion to do, In other words, it's your choice. But with Medicaid, with all these other programs, the money is being taken from you, if you will, by law, and placed into a situation where you don't have any choice where it goes, and you are forced to participate in this program. That is the antithesis of charity.
So, Peter, he said something that caught my attention when he said the feds would give the states money for the Medicare.
Mm-hmm. Medicaid.
Excuse me, because that's for the lower income.
Right.
What were the strings that were attached to that transfer of money? Because he said that, but he didn't elaborate.
I don't know what the strings are.
So that would
the
be
strings
important.
are the strings are that the states are going to accept responsibility for the people that are covered by Medicaid going forward by a certain percentage, and I think it caps at 10%.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up because I forget. But so first off, you're going to be taking responsibility. The state will be paying for those people. Now, that is the big concern for many states because there's this fear that you expand Medicaid to single healthy adults in some ways.
It ended up being an unfunded mandate.
And so that's a large number of people that could get on the Medicaid rolls, and then you pass 10% of that buck over to the state of Montana. Montana, a lot of people argue, wouldn't be able to afford that.
Because of an increased populace that they are now responsible for.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to take a break. John is on the line. We have line 2. We'll get that in just a minute, and we'll try to get as many calls in as we can. We have the Imam on at 9 o'clock. Right? Is that Bob? Okay. We'll be right back. All right. We're back. 728. Mics are on. Hello. Alert! Okay, let's get right to the phones because folks have opinions about this. So let's do that right now. John, first of all, thank you for holding, sir. You're on Talkback.
You're welcome. Good morning. The governor of Ohio sounded to me like a progressive. He went all over the map to make his argument, and it sounded more like that kind of touchy-feely quote conservatism.
Well, you know what it sounded like to me, John? It sounded like he wanted desperately to say it takes a village.
Yes.
To do all this.
And I think we might all be better off just keeping our money in our states rather than sending it to the federal government to dole out.
I think that there could be an element of conservatism in some of Mr. Kasich's thoughts on this. For example, I think it's a conservative principle that keeping money and decision-making procedures local is usually better. And if Montana's making decisions on how to spend healthcare money, that would be better than if the federal government was. And if and the closer you are to the people, the better. But I think that there is a big difference between perhaps Ohio and Montana. Montana is a net beneficiary of federal funds. We get more money into a state, I think, by 3-1 than we give out to the federal government. So we are basically like the
We're good at bringing the pork in.
Yeah, we get a lot of money, and a lot of that is, I think, likely because we have a lot of national forest land that we aren't allowed to use because the federal government says no. We have a lot of highways. We have a lot of upkeep on stuff, and not a lot of people to do it. So there's lots of reasons why we get all that money, but at the same time, Ohio probably has a bit of a different experience. They have more people in a smaller area, so they're probably spending more money to the federal government. And Kasich might be right. Maybe they are spending more than they receive back at home.
I have followed his career over the last easily decade. And look, you can probably find a number of faults with some of his viewpoints and what he's done, but look at the situation that existed in Ohio. Net loss of jobs, very high unemployment, large urban areas in decay. The state had some serious problems. So I tend to look and say, show me what you did. Are you creating jobs? Are you getting people healthier? Is there less? Are you shrinking your budget and doing more with less? And he seems to have demonstrated that. So ideology aside, conservative, Republican, whatever the case may be, I'm going to look at the results here to some degree. I'm not going to judge it solely by that, but Ohio was in a world of hurt, and they are coming out of that. So just
John,
food for thought.
Thanks for your call, John. And let's get Kitty on. Kitty, you're on Talkback. Hi, we have about a minute and a half. Go ahead.
Hi, Peter. This is Kitty. Good morning to you. I have 2 scam reports for you.
Okay.
One was for jury duty, and I had to put $5,000 in escrow because I did not show up for jury duty.
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, $5,000 in escrow. The second one was for my DEA number. I used to have a controlled substance number through the DEA, and they said that I had been writing an extraordinary amount of OxyContin prescriptions in the last month, and the federal government is going to come get me and put me in jail.
Wow.
Well, unfortunately, my DEA number was canceled 5 years ago. I canceled it 5 years ago, so I don't know how I did it last month.
So what are you doing with all the OxyContin?
I don't know.
Let's have a party! Woo-hoo! Sorry.
I'm serious, but no, I'm serious. I mean, it was canceled 5 years ago. How they got my DEA number, I don't know.
It's amazing all the stuff that's out there, isn't it, Kitty?
Yeah,
it's spooky.
Too.
You know,
very
someone's
spooky.
probably digging through the DEA trash bin, pulls out a bunch of phone numbers, and just gets.
Well, they can hack almost anything, you know. And
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. So that's how easy it is.
all right. Now
Well, have a great day.
Well, let me ask you something real quick, Kitty. Did these individuals sound like just regular American Montana folk, or did they have?
Well, that's what my hackles went up when that happened, because I was like going, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Have a great day. Anyway.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I'll see you Friday.
Okay. Yes. Well, we're looking for. By the way, Kitty's son is coming in at 10 o'clock on Friday for his Boy Scout merit badge.
Oh, wow. We're meritorious?
That's right. And we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be visiting with Imam Feisal Abdul Rauf, and he will be with us from the Cordoba Institute. That's coming up right after the 9 o'clock news. Welcome, everyone. It's hour number 2 of Talkback for this Wednesday, sponsored by Bitterroot Motors, doing it right for more than 42 years. Office solutions and services, locally owned with solutions for every office, and also brought to you by the Mustard Seed Restaurant. And we're back once again, hour number 2. Peter Christian with you, along with John King and Bob Seidenschwartz from the Montana World Affairs Council. We are thrilled and honored to be joined this morning by Imam Feisal Abdul Rauf, who's visiting with us from, I'm assuming, New York City. Is that correct, Imam?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, first of all, welcome to Montana. I understand this is your first visit here.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, we are thrilled to have you. Now, could you tell us a little bit, first of all, about the Cordoba Initiative? What is it?
Yes, it's an initiative that I started after 9/11 with friends of mine, most of whom were non-Muslim, who felt that given the importance of the relationships between the United States and various countries in the so-called Muslim world, we needed to do something to improve that relationship. So I have been. I started the Cordoba Initiative with friends of mine, who actually my friend at the time was the then ex-mayor of Aspen, Colorado, to start this initiative by focusing on the areas which we considered to be the problem areas and what we could do as private non-state actors in partnership with state actors and other entities, think tanks, etc., to turn the needle on this very important issue.
What did you select as the important issues or the divisive issues?
Well, I mean, we consider ourselves basically as the provider of the formulas or the solutions. In other words, if you look at the problems between the West in general and the Muslim world, you can divide them in any number of ways. We divide them into the political set of problems, or just political and geopolitical, the issues around particularly issues of religion or religious jurisprudence or theology, the issues of identity, which is more a case in Europe with immigrants, shifting the societal self-definitions of many of those countries, and the fourth, the role of education and media in shaping and reshaping perceptions. And therefore, we felt that if this problem is to be resolved, one has to engage in these sorts of the problem. It's like doing a turnaround for a company. You identify all the areas which need to be changed and work on them in parallel. And of course, these initiatives have to be done not only by people like ourselves in the religious spaces, but in all the different spaces which we indicated.
Wow.
So, Imam, when you're describing a methodology, a template that you have established, can you give us some examples of how you've actually applied that, where you can see result as a result of your outreach and applying this type of methodology in terms of groups, people? Can you give us some insights on that, please?
Yes, we have engaged. We have actually conducted a number of conferences ourselves in partnership with some governments, with think tanks. In the very beginning, we worked with a number of institutes like the Aspen Institute, Brookings, even others there was a particular initiative that was in the early 2003, 2004, 2005 on establishing a white paper on how the United States should deal with the Muslim world, and a number of these ideas have been taken up by the current administration, although they haven't really been able to do as much as we would have liked to on all the issues that we believe are important.
Can you give us some examples of what those issues are, please?
Well, for instance, one of the most important things on the geopolitical issue is the resolution of the Israeli-Arab conflict, which has been a major factor in contributing to antipathy towards the United States. The very large military footprint that the United States has in many Muslim countries. We have bases in Bahrain, military bases in Bahrain, in Qatar, in the Emirates, which contribute to a sense that the invasion of Iraq, the presence of our troops in Afghanistan, the perceived threat by Pakistanis that the United States is trying to deny Pakistan or to interfere in the domestic issues of Pakistan. So all these things are contributory to the perception in the Muslim world. So we have been we have done conferences. We also have done initiatives on the rights of women, how to deal with the French issue regarding, let's say, the wearing of the headscarf in France or religious symbols in France, the issues of the minaret in Switzerland. How do we deal with immigration in those societies? So what we have done is we have formulated a number of projects ourselves, one on defining what the term Islamic statehood means from the point of view of our jurisprudence. This is one of my major projects, which I convened a group of Muslim jurists and scholars and say, is there such a thing as Islamic State, and how do we define it?
Now, when you say Islamic State, you're not referring, I assume, here to ISIS. You're referring to the ideal Islamic State?
Yes, because this terminology of Islamic State really is a recent one. It only came up in our vocabulary within the last century. But there is a long-term theology, if you will, to use Christian vocabulary, about the obligations between the ruler and the ruled. How should he or she rule in a way that is in keeping with, let's say, the divine laws or divine preferences. But the term Islamic State is a new one, and unfortunately is fraught with so much misunderstanding, and yet it has become a matter of grave importance in almost every Muslim country, from Morocco to Indonesia, where there are political parties whose ambition is to erect something called an Islamic State, and yet there's insufficient coherence around this definition from the point of view of our theology.
Imam Feisal, we're up against a commercial break, but we do have a caller who has several questions for you, as do I. And of course, we only have you for a half an hour, so we want to make the most out of all the time we have with you. So we'll be right back after this quick timeout, and Imam Feisal is going to be with us until about 9:30. Hey, thanks for joining us on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. We have Imam Feisal joining us from New York City, and we've been discussing all sorts of things offline, but I think it's important that our audience get the same things. Now, Bob, would you please repeat your question?
I had asked Imam, there recently, as of today, there was an administrative official that left the White House. He was in the defense area. His criticism was, and his frustration is, the White House will not call them the groups that we are engaged with Islamist terrorists or Islamic, militants. And I had asked the Imam the significance of this in terms of why is it important to either identify or not groups by certain types of descriptives. Now, knowing that the pejorative is when we think of Islam in many cases, we do have a negative connotation because of the issues and conflicts, obviously with France and what's going on in the Middle East. So, Imam, could you please give us some of the insights and discussion and share with the audience what we were just discussing off air?
Certainly. What I was saying is that names are important. Names are important. We know this from our personal relationships, where if you rename a child or a human being with a different name, you can actually see differences in behavior. And names are important even in the music industry, in the movie industry, where people like Cary Grant, I think his name was Archibald Cox or something like that, Archibald Fox, and or Robert Zimmerman, who's Bob Dylan is his musical name. You can't conceive of those names or those actors as being named by their real names. So names are important. They have a transformative power. They have an effective power, and they also have, in the case of people like ISIS, a recruiting power. There's a great affection in large numbers of Muslims around the world for their religion, just as there is affection by Christians for the name of Jesus Christ and the person of Jesus Christ and even the name Christianity. So when you associate, or you begin to associate in a deliberate way, the name of a religion with something negative, Islamic terrorists, Islamic terrorism, the Islamic bomb, you create that reality. This is what my gripe has been only for the last 50 years. I've been in the United States for almost 50 years now. And I remember way back when in the 60s when I came here, there was talk about the Christian phalangists or Christian freedom fighters, but Muslim terrorists. And when you do that, when Pakistan tried to get nuclear power and got a bomb, it was called the Islamic bomb. Whereas when India got sought nuclear power, it wasn't called, the Hindu bomb. So the association of Islam and Muslim with the acts of terrorism is a very, very powerful thing. It's a dangerous thing, and it has been done, unfortunately, by the media over the last at least 50 years that I'm aware of, that I came of age, in the 1960s, and began to see these things.
Okay, tell you what, Imam, we've got folks who are clamoring to visit with you, so go ahead.
Real quick, I just wanted to make a comment. It seems to me that there is a sense of dissonance between the West calling the events Islamic terror. But not only that, many of these events are triggered by people that are calling themselves Islamic. It's not like they're going on to the plane and saying, we blow you up in the name of we want to get out of poverty, or in the name that your military bases are here. I mean, they are shouting oftentimes, Allahu Akbar. And
yes,
so to not name it Islamic seems like a dissonance, at least for me, in the conversation.
They would say, we have avenged the Prophet. How are we supposed to react when that kind of thing happens?
Look, it's understandable that you think that way, and I certainly see exactly why you do that, but I also see why they do that, because that helps them get the approval. I mean, first of all, under Islam, let's take this one issue of avenging the Prophet. The Prophet never behaved that way. The Prophet was mocked. The Prophet had many worse type of situations happening to him. He prayed for his enemies, and he worked to transform them. And under Islamic law, even an act like that, which is slanderous or libelous, does not call for capital punishment. So any way you slice it from the point of view of the behavior of the Prophet, the law of Islam, it does not call for this kind of action. So therefore, their attempts to say we've avenged the Prophet is an emotional thing based upon a political agenda and program. Does not originate, it's not led by the imperatives of the faith itself.
So how would you recommend the U.S. State Department and just regular Americans? How would you recommend we describe these acts of which I think we can all agree on as terror of some sort, right?
They're terrorists and they are criminal and they're outside the law. They're outside the law of Islam as much as they're outside the law of any other law. And it's important for us to make that distinction, because you see, they want to call themselves Islamic because that's how they can recruit. There's a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. Imagine if there were Christians who were doing this. Let's say Christians who believe in the right to life, for example, and kill doctors. We're doing this in the name of Christianity, in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of God. I mean, there will be a debate, certainly, but if we give in to the naming, if we allow people like that to call themselves Muslims. I mean, ISIS, we should call them terrorist criminals. Use that kind of a name, and because the battle is not only a military one, a law enforcement and intelligence one. The battle is also one of naming, one of capturing the brand. They have branded Islam in a certain way. It is to their advantage to do it that way. And if we accept their nomenclature, we have lost that front.
I'm absolutely thrilled to hear you say that. But what I don't hear, and what I'm hearing from you, is very encouraging. However, we're not hearing that so much from much of the Muslim world, or at least until these really outrageous acts have been done. We're relatively silent about these groups. Now, has the mere savagery of what happened in Paris and other areas, have that kind of forced the hand of more moderate Muslims to take a stronger stand against what's happening?
Well, Muslims all over the world have condemned it. I mean, almost most of the countries have that I've been able to follow. Most Muslim leaders have condemned it, but this issue of battling within ISIS is now a threat to most of the countries. If ISIS called themselves, just to give you the point, to make the point further, if ISIS called themselves, the movement for parity by Sunnis in Iraq and Syria against Shias, they wouldn't have the same recruiting power. Right. But essentially, that's their raison d'etre.
Sure. I would just throw out, there are Christian examples of this currently in the world. For example, the Lord's Resistance Army, which Joseph Kony heads and claims to be a Christian, right? So... And the State Department doesn't refuse to call it the Lord's Resistance Army.
I'll tell you what, we have lots of folks lined up to visit with you. Let's do the started on this right now. Catherine, first of all, thanks for holding. You're on with Imam Feisal. Go ahead.
Okay, and I have two questions here. The first one is I'm curious what the Imam's opinion is of what al-Sisi, who is the president of Egypt, has actually said and done in the within the last month. He has said that a reformation is needed of Islam, and he also showed up at the Coptic Christian Christmas Mass, which is something that has never been done before because it is forbidden, as far as I understand it, for a Muslim to in any way acknowledge a Christian holiday. So do you agree or disagree with his words and actions, and why or why not? That's the first question.
Okay, we'll stop right there and let him give his response, okay?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the Prophet himself invited Christians to his mosque in Medina when he was a prophet, and when the time came for them to pray, he prayed. He allowed them to pray in his mosque. His successor, Omar, who conquered Jerusalem, respected the rights of Christians and ensured that the rights of Christians, their mosques, their holidays, their celebrations, their religion was to be honored and practiced. I know for a fact many Muslim world leaders, political heads of governments of many countries that have different faiths in their communities participate in the celebration of that. I grew up with my father, the graduate of Al-Azhar University, which was then the preeminent religious university of Islam in the world, and he was very big on interfaith engagement and working together. The history of Islam is filled with facts about positive engagement between Muslims and Jews, Muslims and Christians. In fact, the English Catholic writer William Dalrymple traveled recreated the pilgrimage of a Greek from earlier on centuries ago from Mount Athos in Greece through Turkey and Syria to Egypt, and met with varieties of Christian monastic groups. So the relationship between Islam and Muslims and Christians of various varieties, historically and theologically, is something which I think is very well known by scholars and people who have studied by historians. The issue we have today in the world really is about issues of policies and politics. As far as Sisi in Egypt and his engagement with the Muslim Brotherhood, I'm not myself a fan of the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't think they have governed well in the year that they were in power. But I think that President Sisi, even before he was president, could have engaged with them in a way that would have actually, not resulted in the kind of pushback he's gotten from the Muslim Brotherhood, from other countries like Turkey that are aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood. Nor would he, if he had forced a referendum rather than force them out of power, he would have won by 2-1 margin anyway, at least, if not more than that. So I agree with his intentions, but I think his tactics of how to achieve that have resulted in greater incidents of terrorism and difficulties by various countries in the West to even approve of his methodology, especially when we do things in an undemocratic way.
Okay, Catherine, second question.
Okay, now this is kind of a more difficult question. I'm just sort of working my way through the ideas. But to my mind, part of the problem is that the version of Islam that is being proposed specifically by the more fundamentalist sects, if you will, is a more of the desert theology of the Arabs. And it is these people are trying to impose the kind of a universality of the Arabic notions of Islam on non-Arabic countries, and non-Arabic versions of Islam, if you will. There's a lot of Islamic countries. There's the Aga Khan, who's in charge of the Shia Ismaili Islam version. There's India. There's southern Russia, Indonesia, Malaysia. The Bedouin tribes. They all have their own ethnicity, their own culture, and their own history. And I was thinking back to the medieval days of the Catholic Church when it was a universal church, and it imposed one version, if you will, of the Bible in the Vulgate. And
Catherine, let's let him
basically
answer that,
you see that your understanding is that there's an Arabic national kind of cultural spread of Islam that's forcing itself on these other groups. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Thanks, Catherine. Okay, go ahead. Imam?
Well, look, in all religions, there's always been a battle between different religious groups. I mean, if you look at the history of Christianity, there were various struggles, even leading to battles and wars between different groups on the nature of Jesus Christ, whether he was fully divine, or partially divine, partially human, etc. I mean, but more importantly, the power of religion is a given fact. And throughout history, in all religions, in Christianity and Islam certainly, still today, there is a desire by political powers to co-opt the religious groups for its favor, and vice versa, for different interpretations to seek the endorsement of the political power to endorse its point of view and to push its interpretation. So this is something that is nothing new in history. But the key thing to remember is that almost all conflicts are about political agendas. And a very brilliant writer, acquaintance of mine who used to work for the CIA, has written a very interesting book called The World Without Islam. And it's an exercise, basically, which is analogous to war exercises, where he says, well, let us imagine that Islam never existed and that the Prophet Muhammad did not exist. His conclusion is that pretty much the world would look not that different. The conflicts would still exist because the geopolitical problems that are causing these are still existent. But the vocabulary that they will be mentioned would be different. His major thesis right now being that if it was not the West versus Islam, it would probably be in the vocabulary of the West versus Orthodox Christianity. The big fault line, which even Samuel Huntington speaks about as being between Roman and Western Christianity and Orthodox Christianity or Eastern Christianity, which has tended to be the Christianity of the people of Greece, Russia, and would have probably been parts of North Africa and much of the Arab world.
Imam Feisal, I'm so sorry we're up against a break. I apologize for that, but we have to do that. And Corinne is also waiting to visit with you. 721-1290. This is fascinating conversation, and we would love to. By the way, the Imam has very graciously said he'll stay with us till 10. So we're going to have to let him go, but now he's going to stay with us for another half an hour so we can continue this conversation. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Imam Feisal is with us from New York, and we've been talking about issues with Islam and what's going on, the perception of Islam, not just in this country but all around the world. And I promised to get some more calls in, so let's do that right now. Corinne, you are on with Imam Feisal. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, Corinne. You're on. Please go ahead, ma'am.
I didn't know it was me. Okay, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I just want to start off that this is being said with love to all, but I do have a statement and then a question. I'd like to know, the Quran, chapter 1, talks about chapter 5:53, vandalize and kill, 47:4, cut necks. The Surah 5:33 says all not Muslim should be killed. The Hadafi 107:13 says comfort victim while beheading. Quran 8:12 says to strike off heads. And the Quran 489, take no friends that are infidels. I'm just curious of, and I know I'm not saying these in context per se. When I heard them, they were put in context, so I know that is what it, that it is talking about killing the non-Muslim. So two questions was, are we is it not true what the Quran and the Hadafi and the Surah says? And why do Muslims feel that Jews need to be gotten rid of?
Okay, thanks, Corinne. Thanks for the call. So, Imam Feisal, go ahead. It's all yours.
Well, yeah. First of all, the Quran is a compendium of many things. It's partly history, partly laws, partly various things, and therefore the application of any statement in the Quran to take it out of context, to not understand its imperative, is not something which anybody can do. Unfortunately, it's the situation we have today, where people think that they can read it and apply it to their context. This is the same thing as
Imam, I guess what so many Americans don't understand is when we read the Bible, there are thou shalt and thou shalt nots. Okay, and people are wondering if those kind of things that she just brought up, are they thou shalts or thou shalt nots, or are they, as you said, historical references or other things? It's
again to be able to be qualified to render an opinion based upon the whole body of Islamic law, the Quran, the Hadith, and the result of the interpretations and studies of various scholars. One has to be a scholar, just like you can't read a statute and decide on law in American law just because you can read English language and read the statute. There is a body of law, there's precedents, and this is important to understand because part of the Quran is like a history book. It's like reading the New York Times of a century ago, for example, and saying that the Democrats don't believe in equal rights to the black Americans. In that context, that was a situation, but over time things have changed. So similarly, one has to look at the totality of the interpretation of the law, how the Prophet behaved, how his successors behaved, the history of Jewish-Muslim relationships. Until the time of Israel, the creation of Israel, there were Jewish populations in almost every Muslim, certainly in every Arab country in the Middle East, including Turkey, including Afghanistan and Persia. We had Jewish communities that were part of those communities. So that's the important thing to understand about how to interpret that. And the interpretation, if this interpretation were in fact true and applied, there would never have been Jews or Christians in Muslim lands from the very beginning. But the fact of the matter is that the opposite has been the case.
Would you mind, because I think we're seeing the same thing. I see modernity, and especially post-World War II modernity in the Muslim world, what we're calling the Muslim world, to have a huge, mostly negative impact on the way that Islam is interpreted and practiced, especially towards the Jewish people in those communities. Why do you think there has been, it seems to me, and maybe you disagree with me, but do you see a change in the way that Islam has been interpreted and put into action on the ground in the Middle East? And what do you think would be the causes, or
and John, how much of that is political,
right,
versus what we may think is strictly religious?
Correct. I mean, most things have happened throughout history, as I said in my earlier comment, is that the political forces, whether it's the government or non-state actors who seek political change, have very often used or tried to co-opt the language and vocabulary of religion to motivate people to their point of view. This is something which is a universal formula which everybody has used. So you have to be cognizant of that.
Okay, let's go ahead, Bob.
Imam, I just want to shift gears a little bit. You had written a book, and one of the questions I wanted to pose is, can you contrast the differences between how Europe in general has handled immigration, and particularly as it relates to Muslims, and the United States? Because my belief is the U.S. has done a far better job at integrating immigrant populations, and particularly the Muslim populations, into this country. And we see and we know some of the issues with Europe. So can you please give us some insights, and also share, John, you had mentioned...
one of the titles of Imam Feisal's books is What's Right with Islam is What's Right with America, which I think might go along the lines of your conversation here.
So could you please elaborate on this?
Certainly. First of all, on the issue of Europe versus America, it is true that that immigrants in general, including Muslims, have integrated or assimilated into American society much better than in Europe, and that's because, in my judgment, America is structurally a melting pot or a salad bowl of immigrants. We are structurally a multicultural society, founded by immigrants who have welcomed immigrants from other societies. Countries like Canada, like Australia, share this as part. This is part of the American social contract, and the self-definition of who we are. We are all hyphenated Americans. We are Irish Americans. We are Arab Americans. We are Latin Americans, African Americans. Now, this took a while, even although we were that from the founding time of our founding fathers. It still wasn't easy for America to assimilate. Our history with the Native American Indians, our history with the black people, our history with Catholics, with the Irish, with the Italians. It took a while. With Jews, it took a while until this really became increasingly the case on a de facto basis. Whereas in Europe, part of the problem which Europe is going through, as I see it, is that Europe is going through a paradigm shift in terms of their particular national social contracts. So, perhaps even till now, maybe less so now, but let's say until the middle part of the 20th century, the mid-1900s, to be English meant you had to be white, you had to be Anglican and English-speaking. If you're white, English-speaking, and Catholic, you are beyond the pale, which is part of the problems that existed in Ireland between the Catholics and the Protestants. If you were French, you had to be, even though, in spite of the French Revolution, France still was a very class society, where people like Dominique de Villepin would be the creme de la creme of French society, and you had different classes within. But so it is more of what sociologists call a homogeneous society or a monocultural society in terms of the definition who is truly French or is truly English. It's more difficult to, if you're an immigrant or a person of a different faith tradition, to be considered mainstream. So that's part of the battle which is happening in Europe today. Europe is battling between their national identities with immigrants and how it is reformulating itself at a structural paradigm level of who they are as French, as English, and even now as European.
Imam, hang on. We have a Facebook comment,
Yeah,
and then we have to take a break.
A Facebook comment by Brian. Maybe you agree or disagree, but this is how he's interpreting you, Imam. He says, it seems to me the thrust of Mr. Rauf's campaign is to change the attitudes of Western states rather than integrate non-Western Islamic faith to conform to the personal and religious freedoms afforded to all in the West.
Okay, we're going to take a break, come back, discuss that, and Emmett and Charles will try to get you on as well. We're going to have the Imam Feisal on till 10 o'clock. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback, 721-1290, 1-800-568-530. Now, let's repeat that
That's
Facebook
right.
comment.
Right before the break, Brian had posted that he thought that it seemed to him that that the Imam's position was to try to change the attitudes of Western states rather than to integrate non-Western Islamic faith to conform to the personal and religious freedoms afforded to all in the West. How do you deal with Brian's interpretation of what you've been saying,
Not true at all. I mean, I'm very much very bullish on Muslims also integrating themselves into Western society. I mean, one of my projects, the Cordoba House, is focusing on that very issue. If you look at Islam, not only Islam but other religions as well, when it spread from its country of origin, in the case of Islam, from the Arabian Peninsula to ancient societies of Egypt and Byzantium and Persia and India, it expressed itself in each of those cultures, in its architecture, in its laws, in its cultural norms, in its dress codes, etc. So one of the things that I believe is a legitimate claim that people in the West make against Muslims is that we haven't assimilated very well. But there's a way to do that, and that's a natural thing. It's happened to every society when it immigrates. We need to develop, just as happened to Christianity when Christianity came to America. You have American Christianity. The Anglican Church became the Episcopal Church. You have American Judaism from the Orthodox tradition. You have the Conservative, and you have the Reform. Similarly, this is part of our history too, but it has to be done in such a way that maintains the continuity of authentic religious thought. But we need, so part of my work, the Cordoba House, is to establish an American Islamic identity in our laws, in our dress codes, in our behaviors. Now, these things are happening anyway, but we need to accelerate the process, just like we do in genetic engineering. We rapidly evolve the case of evolution, and it needs to be done.
Imam Feisal, I must ask you, what you're saying, I would imagine in some circles of your religion has got to be to make you a very unpopular person. Have you come under fire for these views?
Well, I mean, I have been critiqued for these views, but when I debate them, basically you see people nodding their heads because I'm anchoring it in terms of our own tradition. This is part of every religious tradition.
Okay, let's try to get at least one call in here. Emmett, you're on with the Imam Feisal. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. This is a fascinating discussion, but I do have the question for the Imam. I'm kind of confused. I liked one of the callers, Corinne's quotes from the Quran. I think it's important to understand that there are different interpretations of the Quran, just like so many different sects and types, brands of Christianity interpret the Bible in very different ways. But when we read the Bible, we apply the Bible to our own lives, even if we have different sects of Christianity. And, the people who are involved with Al-Qaeda or ISIS will claim that they are worshiping Allah, that they do read their Quran and they pray to Allah every day, and that it is their duty as a devout Muslim following the Quran and their devout faith to do these terrorist acts in the name of jihad. So I don't understand why you would say that they are not Muslims, but merely putting a political agenda or spin and the name of the Prophet Muhammad on these political terror acts. They will always claim, people in Al-Qaeda, the terrorists, whoever, or ISIL, will claim they are devout Muslims, and they are doing this because of their faith. So could you answer that?
In view of time, Emmett, I'm going to let you go and let him answer that, okay? So Imam Feisal, go ahead.
Yes, look, I think I did try to address it before. There are certainly people, we cannot say that it is something which has come out from within they utilize the Islamic vocabulary. But I mean, but still, there is a rule of law in Islam. There's a procedure in Islam. There's a theology of Islam which is widely accepted by the vast majority of scholars. These people are on the outside of it. They are motivated purely by geopolitical agendas, and it's very clear that they're governed by that. It's very clear that they're about power, and that their actions are outside the teachings, the law, and the ethics of Islam. That's why I call them non-Muslims. We all have our criminals. I mean, and it is clear from even the two people who committed the terrorist acts in Paris. They were recruited in jail. They were criminals. Every society is criminals. It's very easy for criminals to be co-opted and recruited for these types of things. Anyway, the big issue is if we're going to lick this problem, we have to cooperate together. Muslims and non-Muslims, Muslims and Christians and Jews. We have to work with each other. We have to define each other by the best of our traditions, not by the worst of our traditions.
All right, let's get one more call in if we can. Charles, real quickly, you're on with Imam Feisal. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, listen, here's what I believe. I've got an article right here. It says the troubling math of Muslim migration. And I believe this. There are wonderful Muslims, no question about it. But there's a great danger to any society that gets to a certain point of Muslim immigration because it's like a disease turned viral. There are extremists that raise up, and their very existence is threatened, those who are Christians and Jews. And this is a matter of history. Look at Nigeria, for example, right now.
All right. Thanks, Charles.
You're welcome.
So go ahead, Imam.
Well, there's no doubt that you know many countries have problems, they have political problems, but you know scholars who have actually tested these things have actually measured that Muslims are not the cases of murder, the cases of rape are not any higher in Muslim societies than they are in non-Muslim societies. Crimes are not higher in Muslim societies than in non-Muslim societies. Yes, there are issues of political frustration. There's a lack of representative democracy. These are the bigger issues. The bigger issues in the Arab and Muslim world are of a political nature and an economic nature. Until these issues are resolved, just like what has happened in Western Europe, the struggle for democratic powers resulted in a lot of a lot of things, a lot of bloodletting. Yeah. I mean, the French developed the guillotine to behead people.
Imam, I'm so sorry. We have like a minute and a half, and John has a quick question.
Real quick question. We'll tie this in before you exit the show. We'd like you to tell us how to get more involved in the Cordoba Initiative and to find out more about your work. But I did want to ask you this question. What do you see, and it's the title of your book, What is Right with Islam is Right with America? I want to know, where do you see this political philosophy of America and this religious philosophy intersecting?
Well, I believe that the American Declaration of Independence expresses the values of our faiths, the Abrahamic faiths, the equality of human beings, the fact that every one of us that all men are created equal, endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and property, which then was called pursuit of happiness. This particular theme emanates from the Abrahamic faith traditions, where we believe that there's no class differentiation between separations of people based upon color or based upon anything like we're all equal, and that God Himself gave us rights. The right to life, the right to property, the right to pursue our happiness, etc.
And unfortunately,
unfortunately, God did not give us more time in this segment. We're going to let you sign off. Tell us how to find out more.
Well, you can go to Amazon.com, and that's probably the best way to get it. And you'll have it within 2 days.
All right. And, of course, there are books called Moving the Mountain, also one that you had mentioned as well. And Imam Feisal, I want to say thank you for being on with us. You've been very forthright with your answers, taking all of our questions. And we look forward to having you on again sometime.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it, too.
Imam, see you in the fall, and thank you so much.
My pleasure indeed, Bob.
Thank you. All right. Wow, interesting. And so tomorrow?
Tomorrow we'll be speaking with some members from the Manhattan Institute. First off, talking about the college initiative of the president.
Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy the sunshine.